Cool. So we are here for solving one past exam question from mergers and acquisition. I had sent the question on the group today morning. So I hope you got an opportunity to at least go through the question. It's not a very difficult one. काफी मतलब straightforward ही है, but it was asked in the December 22 exam, and it gives you basic practice on the valuation part and a simple approach to mergers and acquisition, because there are tougher questions also in M&A. This is one of the easier ones. Okay. There are three parts to this question. The first requirement is estimate the equity value of combination of Propleis company and Adictcan company, and the benefits that which would be gained by Propleis company's shareholders from the acquisition. Discuss the assumptions made in the calculations in A, including whether the expected synergies are likely to be achieved. Now, this type of question is very frequent in AFM. डिस्कस द assumptions made. बहुत बार ये क्वेश्चन आता है पेपर में, एंड नॉट जस्ट विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू M&A, with respect to investment appraisal, with respect to corporate failure, with respect to almost everything. Assumptions made is a very common question. We'll see how to answer that. Excuse me. And explain the actions which Propleis company's board can take to ensure that the companies are integrated successfully and synergies are realized. 10 marks calculation, 10 marks theory, 5 marks for professional skills. Professional skills, we'll get into that later. First of all, let's focus on getting the calculation in place and the theory. Okay. The following exhibits available provide information relevant to the question. Exhibit 1, Propleis company and Adictcan company. Number 2 is acquisition valuation. Propleis company and Adictcan company are two listed publishing companies. The main focus of both the companies is publishing magazines. Both are listed, although they also publish a number of books linked to the magazines. Propleis company publishes property and lifestyle magazines. Adictcan company publishes magazines covering professional sports. Both companies publish a combination of magazines which have been established in recent years, and some of which have been published for much longer. Okay. I don't have any calculation related data so far. Propleis company has an in-house team of staff, writers and editors who are responsible for content. This is for the first company. Most are young and tend to stay for a limited time before moving on to other publishing jobs. Adictcan company has a team of in-house writers and editors for each magazine who are specialists in the sport and which their magazines cover, and who in some cases have worked for magazines for many years. Currently, successful sports stars also write for Adictcan company's magazines. Adictcan company's board has given the managerial and writing teams of the most successful magazines considerable autonomy in determining the content and development of their magazines. Both companies have an online presence in addition to publishing paper copies of their magazines. Electronic subscribers for both companies can access some content which is only available online. Whereas Propleis company has won awards for its online presence and e-marketing, Adictcan company's website has been criticized for looking old-fashioned, with the main appeal of its online offering being the high quality of the writing of the content which is only available online. Propleis company is planning to make a takeover bid for Adictcan. Propleis takeover bid Adictcan and has contacted Adictcan company's board. Propleis company's board believes that the acquisition could provide synergies, particularly in the areas of online presence, marketing, and cross-selling, and also savings in staff administration and paper cost. There is some focus on synergies here, which by the way is a question. Requirement C says explain the actions which Propleis companies board could take or can take to ensure that the companies are integrated successfully and synergies are realized. Steps that they can take for realization of synergies. ये पूरा theoretical aspect था, but now is the real part. The current market value of Propleis company's equity is 620 million and Adictcan company's equity is 340 million. Current market value. क्या है आपके पास? Current market value 620 and 340. Adictcan company's board has indicated that its shareholders will expect a premium of 20% above its equity value. What is the premium expected? 20% above its current equity value. By whom? Adictcan company. Propleis company's board feels that its shareholders will also expect a gain of at least 20% of the current equity value from acquisition. Propleis company wishes to estimate the equity values of this acquisition from the free cash flow to the firm method using the following information. Free cash flow to firm, pay attention, not free cash flow to equity. Expected sales revenue in the first year when the companies are combined of 720 million. The sum of the sales revenue of two companies for the most recent financial year and an expected sales growth rate in each of the 2 years. In each of the years 2 to 4 of 8%. Expected post-tax operating cash flows in each of the years 1 to 4 of 14% of sales. The company requires additional investment in non-current assets of 25 million in year 1 and zero point 0.3 for every $1 increase in sales revenue in each of the years 2 to 4. After year 4, an expected annual growth rate of the company's free cash flow to firm of 4% for the foreseeable future. Assume a cost of capital 10%. The target debt equity ratio of the combined company is 1:3. Target debt equity ratio है 1:3. Now, prima facie, from the looks of it, this does not appear to be a complex question at all. This appears like a question, जहाँ पे basic information is given to you, and all you have to do is you simply have to put together that information and perform your calculations. कुछ tough मुझे दिखता तो नहीं है so far. Let's see how much of it is actually true. Let's try to solve the question now. First of all, what do we need? Equity value of the combination of Propleis company and Adictcan company. First of all, we need to perform company valuation. Okay. And how exactly are we planning to do that? See, they have specifically mentioned that the company uses free cash flow to firm method, not free cash flow to equity. So step 1, calculate free cash flows. Discount those cash flows. Let's see what do we get here. Okay. So the first working note, calculation of value of the company using discounted cash flows. Calculation of value of company using discounted cash flows. ठीक है. अब what all do we need? We need the cash flows from year 1, 2, 3, 4, and then of course after year T1, T2, T3, T4 and T5 onwards. T5 onwards to perpetuity. ठीक है. Let's see. What is the first thing that we should write? What is the first piece of information? Sales. First year में you expect a sales of 720 million and then it grows by 8% each year. है ना? So sales 720. This plus 8% of 720, right? Then expected post-tax operating cash flows in each of the years is 14% of sales revenue. ठीक है. Post-tax operating cash flow A into 14%. ठीक है. This into 14%. Correct. Then you have what other information is there? The company requires additional investment in non-current assets of 25 million in year 1 and then $0.3 for every $1 increase in sales revenue in each of the years 2 to 4. Okay. So let's talk about investment in non-current assets. 25 here. Then whatever is the increase in sale, if the increase in sale is $1, investment in non-current assets is 0.3. Correct. इसके बाद we'll have total cash flow. Total cash flow is B minus C. Okay. Now there's one statement or one note that you should know. So I'm writing it here. Note. So usually operating cash flow is calculated as post-tax cash flow plus depreciation. है ना? We add back all the non-operating non-cash expenses. Depreciation is a non-cash expense. But in this question, there is no information about depreciation. So we should consider post-tax operating profit to be equal to post-tax operating cash flow. ठीक है, वो we'll have to make that assumption, otherwise this question will never proceed, है ना? Then assume a cost of capital of 10%. Discounting factor at the rate of 10%. I think you can tell this even when someone wakes you up from sleep. But exam mein don't play the stunt, huh? Please do the calculation or use the table, otherwise you will end up making a mistake. Present value is total cash flow into discounting factor. This is T1, T2, T3, T4, but that's not all, right? As after year 4, expected annual growth rate of company's free cash flow to firm is 4% for the foreseeable future. So you know what? Let me remove this. Let me write it here. Present value of cash flows T1 to T4 is how much? This. Okay. Now, cash flows are expected to grow at a constant rate of 4% after year 4. Cash flows are expected to grow at a constant rate of 4% each year after year 4. ठीक है. So, present value of cash flows T5 to perpetuity will be cash flow at T5 upon discounting factor minus growth rate. See, when you apply, this is the formula for growing perpetuity. When you apply this formula to a perpetuity stream which starts at T5, it will give you the value at T4. You have to multiply that value with discounting factor for T4. ठीक है. How will you do this? Cash flow at T5 will be how much? Your free cash flow is 106.82 है ना? This is cash flow at T4. So 106.82 into 1 plus 4%, right? Upon 10% minus 4%, है ना? Into 0.683. Tell me how much is this value?
1,851.
Into 1 plus 4% divided by 6%. I get 1264.65. What is value of company? Value of company is 291.79 plus 1264.65. कितना होगा? 291.79 plus 1264.65, 1556.44. Are you with me, all of you? Check करो. See whether you had a similar thought process or not. ठीक है? Anything that you want to ask in the calculation part?
सर, जो हम लोगों ने पहले क्वेश्चंस में करा था उसमें हम लोगों ने एज्यूम करा था कि जो T5 का कैश इनफ्लो होगा
हम्म
उसको हम लोग डिवाइडेड बाय रेट और माइनस ग्रोथ कर रहे थे। वैसे भी आंसर आ सकता है, ये डिफरेंट है।
वही तो किया ना, 10% माइनस 4%, डिस्काउंटिंग फैक्टर इज 10% एंड ग्रोथ रेट इज 4%। वही तो किया
बट
डिनोमिनेटर।
इसमें आपने सम ले लिया ना सबका।
किसका सम ले लिया मैंने?
कैश, इसका क्या नाम है सर, जितने कैश फ्लोज हैं फ्रॉम T1 टू T4,
हाँ,
अगर हम लोग सिर्फ T4 का कैश फ्लो पे करें।
बट हाउ विल दैट हेल्प? Business value is present value of all the future cash flows ना. So T1, T2, T3, T4 उसका present value you took, and then cash flows. So you have your planning horizon till T4. Planning horizon ends after T4. T5 से there is a constant growth rate.
ठीक है।
So there are two separate cash flow streams, right? ये T1 to T4 और ये T5 to perpetuity.
ठीक है।
So we can't have just this, no? We
ठीक
need
है।
both, right? Now, the target debt equity ratio is 1 is to 3. है ना? Now, this is value of the company as a whole. Target debt is to equity ratio is basically 1 is to 3. So, what is the value of equity of combined company? Is it 1556.44 into 3 by 4? Is that right? This into 3 by 4, 1167.33. This seems like the value of equity of the combined company. Debt is to equity 1 is to 3 means debt is 1/4, equity is 3/4. Okay. Now, what is the total value of equity of the two individual companies? Total value of equity of the two individual companies. What have they given us here? कितना है? 620 and 340. 620 plus 340. How much is this? 960? है ना? So, what is the synergy gain of the two companies coming together? Synergy gain is 1167.33 minus 960. Correct? Tell me, how much is that?
207.33.
207.33. Okay. Now, is everyone with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now observe this. Adictcan company's board has indicated that its shareholders will expect a premium of 20% above its current equity value. For Adictcan company, current equity value is 340. Okay, so current equity value of Adictcan company is 340. Okay. Then what is the premium expected by Adictcan companies, Adictcan shareholders is 340 into 20%. है ना? Let's write down 340 into 20%. ठीक है? If this is the case, then the remaining amount, see, total synergy gain था 207.33, out of which gain of 68% is attributed to Adictcan company. Total synergy gain is 207.33, out of which 68 is attributed to Adictcan company. So synergy gain attributed to Propleis company कितना होगा? Will it not be 207.33 minus 68? Tell me how much is this value?
139.33.
139.33. Okay. What is the current equity value of Propleis company? 620. Okay. Then gain attributed to Propleis. 207.33 minus 68. 139.33. ठीक है. Now, with this information given, what will you do next? Calculate percentage gain, which is 139.33 divided by 620. 22.47. Propleis company's shareholders expected a gain of at least 20%. Are they getting a gain of at least 20% in this deal? They are getting 22.47, which is better. So they are likely to accept the proposal. Do you agree? What was the question? The question was the equity value of the combination of Propleis company and Adictcan company and the benefits which would be gained by Propleis company's shareholders from the acquisition. I believe we have successfully calculated the benefit that they would get from the acquisition. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everyone have a look. Tell me if you want me to scroll up or down or anywhere, and I'll do that. Let me take you here. Observe each step and tell me if there is anything you want me to highlight.
So please just scroll down.
Sure. Yes, Seher?
So maybe because I've not completed watching the recordings, that is why this doubt is coming.
Hmm.
This 106.82 into 1.4% you have done.
Hmm.
So can we directly take the present value of T4 and then divide it with the discounting factor and growth rate and then multiply it with the discounting factor of T4?
You are saying present value of T4 means this.
72.96.
No, because the formula for a growing perpetuity is next expected cash flow. That is actual cash flow, not discounted cash flow. So you will need the next expected cash flow, which is cash flow at T5. Now, cash flow at T5 has to be this plus 4%.
Because the growth rate is 4%.
Yes, and that has to be calculated on the actual cash flow, not on the discounted cash flow.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Welcome. Have a look and see if you can make sense out of it. Yes, Kunal.
Sir, why we are not taken like 207.33 divided by direct 960? Like both the
207
divide by 960 because both the companies want like 20% hike in equity.
But both of them want 20% on their pre-acquisition values. Now, this is the combined value, but your gain is each company wants a gain of 20% on their pre-acquisition value, not on the combined value. So you have to evaluate it for each company. Okay. Now, there's an interesting theory question here. Discuss the assumptions made in calculation. Now, you see, these are all projections. सारे के सारे projections है, which means there are quite a few assumptions involved. Start from the top and tell me what all assumptions do you see in this? Yes, Sayed, anything from you?
The cost of capital.
Cost of capital. Can you elaborate?
Assume cost of capital is 10%.
Okay, so can you elaborate? Go a little more in detail.
And they have done assumption that the cost of capital will be 10%.
Okay, they have made an assumption that the cost of capital will be 10%. Fair enough. They have not given you the reason behind choosing 10%, right? Ideally, cost of capital should be that should be the WACC of the company. Correct. Now, if 10% is WACC of the company, then it is an assumption that it will not change even after the business combination has taken place, which, by the way, is a huge assumption, right? Because individually, the two companies will have a certain cost of capital. When you are combining the two companies, you will again have to calculate WACC. You are assuming that it will remain 10%. Fair enough. Then the very first thing you are saying that the sales will grow at a rate of 8% in years 2 to 4 and post-tax earnings will remain constant at the rate of 14%. Now, the assumption that sales growth rate, margins, tax rate, incremental capital investment, you are making an assumption that these values can be determined accurately right now, at present, and that they will remain the same. Now, it's a big assumption to make. Now, there is a possibility that the growth rate would be different. There is a possibility that because of economies of scale, the operating profit would increase. There is a possibility that, maybe depending on the product life cycle, the operating profit margin could change. You have not considered any of that. The incremental capital investment, it's not necessary that it will be 0.3% every year, right? Because after a certain period of time, old machinery will retire and you will have to bring replacement. So just saying that it will be 0.3 for every dollar one of incremental sales, बहुत सारा assumption है. Then growth rate of free cash flows after year 4 is also assumed to be maintainable in perpetuity, which might be unrealistic, right? Because market situations will change. There is a possibility that people don't even prefer magazines after a point. Everyone wants online. So काफी सारा issues are there. Too many assumptions have been made. Then you see the whole success of this proposal depends on the company achieving these cash flows, because only when the company achieves these cash flows will they actually get a total combined value of 1167.33. What if they are not able to achieve the cash flows? Then this value will fall. If this value falls, then you will not be able to achieve that level of percentage gain, then the deal will fall through. Success of the deal depends upon this of the company achieving this 1167.33, and 1167.33 can be achieved only when these assumptions are right. If these assumptions move a little, if these assumptions don't end up getting realized, then your final values will be different and the deal might not fall through, or it might not go through in the future, because the expectations of shareholders are not getting met. Ideally, in such a situation, you should do sensitivity analysis. We have done sensitivity analysis in skill level. P level may we haven't done that. We will be covering that, don't worry. But in such questions, you should always mention a need for sensitivity analysis to be done. ठीक है, always mention that particular point कि that might be required. So these are all the assumptions that you will make. Also, one major assumption is that the two companies will end, or the merger will end up realizing the synergies that all of them are expecting, right? And the realization of synergies depends upon, whether the two organizations culturally fit, whether regulatory environment gets matched or not, whether the teams are willing to make those adjustments, and is there any resistance to change, and so on and so forth. Now that is a huge assumption to make in my opinion, and you should write that in the answer. Okay. Now in such cases, the answer at the back is should be taken as the starting of point. Whatever points we have discussed, those are naturally mentioned there. And then you should look at the language, but don't have that extra pressure कि I have to recreate the language. You don't have to recreate the language. Okay. You have to make sure that you are able to recollect the crux of the points and present it in your own words. This is not recreating provisions of the law, so word for word करने का जरूरत नहीं है. ठीक है, just read this once, and don't worry about the sensitivity part. I will teach sensitivity separately, don't worry. अभी just read the assumptions bit. How do you improve your marks in the exam? After today, whenever you sit down to practice, make sure that you type out the theory answer. It's okay if you read and type it out. I don't have a problem. But it ensures two, three things. First thing, you get used to the language. Second thing, when you type out the content na, it gets stronger and stronger in your conscious memory. So work on that. Plus, it will help in time management. Exam mein you won't have to think, it will come in very naturally to you. So please read it once. ठीक है. practice typing. Don't take it lightly. It will help you in the exam typing out the answers. Very important. ठीक है? One हो गया? Has everyone finished reading?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, last part, explain the actions which Propleis company's board can take to ensure that the companies are integrated successfully and synergies are realized. Now, the one part of this answer will definitely come from this story, this background information, but this is mostly, an independent theoretical question. ठीक है यहाँ पे I think one aspect that you should focus on is, see, the two companies now, they are quite different from each other. See, both are in the same space, but one company has a young staff which will not stay for long. The other company has, more experienced staff which has stayed for long. So there are points of differences. What does that indicate? Somewhere that indicates that there is a cultural difference or an outlook difference in the eyes of the staff, right? So integration and realization of synergies that can happen if you uh, understand what are the sources of synergy. When you are looking at, gaining in the process, you should see which people to retain and, who will basically help your company to grow. If so, communication with Adictcan company staff throughout the acquisition process is important to minimize staff turnover. Why? Because Adictcan has a team of people who have been working there for long. So you will have to give them the assurance that their jobs will remain safe even after the acquisition. They might fear that, we will lose their job, that we lose our jobs, and you have to give them an assurance that your jobs are safe. Only then they will be able to contribute to the growth of the combined entity, right? Propleis company also needs to make decisions about, you know, which staff members are important. You will have to reorganize the setup. You will have to make certain, cultural shifts in the way you approach, right? Correct communication will have to be done to the team. And see, there are sports stars also who write. So, they will also need right kind of communication. Okay. Then you will need a plan for the acquisition process and integrating Adictcan company's business into Propleis company. The management will have to spend time to align the objectives, to align the working processes. Only then long-term synergies will come to you. है ना? So all of these points are pretty important. I'm not, see, pura ka pura answer is not dependent on the scenario, but a good part of the answer has to be built from the scenario. And this is where, a lot of students make mistakes and they don't get marks. See, they are not asking you to write 5 points one below the other. Here, if these things happen, then you end up realizing synergies. That is not the intention. Please understand. They want you to relate the facts of the case with the theoretical knowledge you have and then present. So communicate. So basically, connecting this part to the culture in the two organizations, the fact that there are sports stars, the fact that one company has a staff which is mature and which will want to remain, the other company has a staff which will move on in less time. So ये सारा aspect आपको include करना पड़ेगा. Only then your answer will fetch a 4 on 4. If you simply write down the steps to take in order to ensure effective integration, you will not get marks for that. They will give you maybe 1.5 marks out of 4. You will lose marks unless you connect the situation with the theoretical knowledge that you have. So connecting the facts of the case to the situation is important. Now make sure that you have built that ability to make that connection. Otherwise, आपको out of 4 you will barely get 1.5 or 2. 2 भी नहीं मिलेगा, 1.5 बड़ी मुश्किल से मिलेगा. So making sure that you connect facts of the case with the theoretical knowledge that you have is very, very important. ठीक है? Are you with me, all of you? Perfect. So this is how a typical 25-mark question looks like. We had done one yesterday. We have done one today. We'll be doing one on Wednesday. ठीक है? I'll send you the Wednesday question on the group so that you can थोड़ा सा come prepared. Fair? Thank you so much.